Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to take a good old look at the last two EXs from White Flare. I showed you earlier the last two from Black Bolt, Hydreigon, which was super interesting, and Whimsicott, which was super interesting. So with Black Bolt giving us some new EXs that are pretty interesting, how can White Flare compare? And we're going to start off with something that makes me extremely happy. Because not only do we have Excadril EX, and honestly that alone makes me very happy, but then we also have an Okacheke Drillbur? I love Drillbur! Okacheke is my favourite artist. Add this all up together, you get a happy Wassy. And one thing that's kind of cool here, whereas some of the Pokemon that are getting EXs in this set have never had any love like that before, Excadril did have an EX before. It was in a reprint set, Legendary Treasures, that didn't have much in the way of, exciting new cards, but did have a couple of EXs, including Excadril. That wasn't great, but dig out 40 damage, discard the top card of your deck. If it's a basic energy, attach it to one of your Pokemon. That was at least borderline viable. So how can we describe this new Excadril? Is it borderline viable? Well, we got 2 energy here, and it does 60 damage to your opponent's active, and 60 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that already has damage counters on it. Is it borderline viable? Yeah, I actually think it is. Now, here's my argument here. You kind of need to go first. Going first is kind of important. You go first, you get an energy onto Drillbur. Your opponent has a turn, and they are allowed to attack. Try and make sure they don't KO your Drillbur, would ya? And let's assume they don't attack. Let's assume it's a setup deck, because this is way better against setup decks. They don't attack, at which point you do 60 to their active, and 60 to one of their bench, but there's at least some damage on it already. I'm thinking Hawlucha. So you put 10 damage on one of your opponent's evolving Pokemon sitting there on the bench, and then you go and do 60 with this, KO on a bench Pokemon. That's where I think this comes in beautifully. It doesn't have to be Hawlucha, although Hawlucha does really stand out as one that fits perfectly here, because it puts 1 damage counter into each of 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. And then the theory here is that you can get some damage on the active while KOing a bench Pokemon. And if you combine it with some gusting, you can put 10 damage onto each of 2 bench Pokemon, gust one of them up into the active, and then you obviously attach second energy and evolve into your stage 1, and then you get that double KO rolling on. This is where I see Excadril coming in and absolutely excelling. This is where I think it could end up being really very, very good, because double KOs are good. I worry that as we get more into the game, this is an attack that's going to get weaker and weaker. I worry that it's not going to be as good, which is a little bit sad. But certainly in the first couple of turns, and certainly against setup decks, there is a lot that we can start getting a little bit excited about here. And, any deck that naturally hits the bench anyway, you could potentially bring this in as hang on a second, all right, I see what you're doing here, and then go and kind of add to that bench damage. That could be fun. Not to mention, if fighting is a decent weakness that you're hitting weakness on Fezandipiti. And no, you're not KOing. You're not KOing Fezandipiti, I'm sorry. Wish you were. But you are still doing a bunch of damage. You are still getting a lot of damage on the board as you do this, while also hitting the bench. I think in the first couple of turns, this is really nice. Especially against setup decks where you could be taking multiple KOs. After that, you need to be a little more careful, but hitting a good weakness and hitting 2 Pokemon in one attack, plus 270 HP on a stage 1, not too shabby. Add that all up, and I'm a little bit intrigued. We then got free energy, 200 damage, and is not affected by resistance. Which, to be fair, there are a bunch of Pokemon out there that do resist fighting, so there is that. But, yeah. This one I'm a little bit less excited about, I'm going to be honest with you. But technically it's there. So, yay. Yeah, sorry, ladies and gentlemen. This one is, it's not a terrible attack, but free energy is just a bit too much. And then you're only doing 200, which doesn't even KO basic EXs. And it just seems fairly underwhelming, I think, is how I'm personally going to phrase it. In terms of accelerating energy, by the way, we don't have much good in terms of accelerating fighting energy, but we do have things like Blood Moon Ursa Luna, for instance, that you can then move energy off of using something like Energy Switch. Or we've got Sandy Shocks, that then same kind of deal, it can get energy to itself and you can energy switch it over. I don't think either of these are perfect, and honestly, I'm looking at this as an early game option, so I'm not sure how relevant this is going to be. This is my attached turn 1, hopefully going first, hope it survives, and then on turn 2, I can start having some fun with this one. I'm going to go ahead and give this one between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. I worry that the attacks don't do quite enough damage. I worry about the awkwardness of having to damage the bench Pokemon before you can hit it again. But I also think we can look at this and go, well, it's a 2 energy stage 1 that hits a decent typing and can hit 2 Pokemon at once. If one ends up on the bench or whatever, you're looking good. But the other one is one that we've known about for a while. It was mentioned in the press release. We finally get to see it. It's Meloetta EX. We've been waiting for this one. Was it worth the wait? Well, maybe. You see, what we've got here is a fairly underwhelming attack, but it's a basic Pokemon single energy, so that helps. 30 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, this attack does an extra 80 damage. So it's single energy 30, but if you used it last turn, it turns into a single energy 110. And single energy 110, it's not amazing, but it is pretty gosh darn good on a basic. However, at this point, I've got to caution you, it's only if you used it last turn, and if you go to the bench, then this is one of those effects that gets reset. So if your opponent gusts or removes you from the active in any way, shape, or form, you are done at that point. And you have to go round again, so to speak. You're hitting 30 damage and then 110. So if you can pile up these 110, 110, 110, 110, 110, 110, 110, 110, then this is actually pretty decent. But you got 200 HP, and all your opponent needs to do is get you out of the active in any way, shape, or form, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work very well anymore. And that's a bit of a problem. But then we look at the ability, and the ability says that you can use this attack even on your first turn going first. And there have been formats in the recent past where we'd look at this and go, well, all right then, 30 damage turn 1 going first. Is it even, like, what are you even KOing at? What are you even hitting at that point? Badoo. Badoo's got 30 HP. That sounds like one that you might want to get here. Oh, while we're here, Joltik. Joltik's got 30 HP and is seeing a bunch of play right now. And actually, there are plenty of decks that are going to be playing one of these two. And then you're in. Not to mention, of course, that Meloetta actually is still a Pokemon that is seeing some play in some of these blocking decks. And what does Meloetta evolve from? 30 HP Feebas. There are at least three, relevant 30 HP Pokemon in the metagame right now. And the thing about something like Meloetta's attack is, your opponent doesn't get to do anything here. This is your first turn going first. So your opponent starts with Lone Badoo, or Lone Joltik, or whatever, and they can look at their hand and go, well, I'm not leaving that there beyond the end of this turn. I'm definitely getting that out of the active during this turn, and that's a wonderful idea. Just might be a completely moot point. If they don't get a turn, then it doesn't matter how much stuff they've got to get out the active. And that's essentially what Meloetta is for. Again, this, very much like Excadril, this is an early game Pokemon. This is a Pokemon where turn 1, going first, you can get some damage on the board, but you're looking for a cheeky KO. And there is a world here, and this is going to happen in some games, where you go first, use Meloetta to KO a 30 HP Pokemon, and either you win the game there and then, yay, and I think a lot of the time you will, because your opponent probably is not leaving a lone 30 HP Pokemon in the active, or you can then just start doing 110 over and over and over again. And maybe, you do 30 and it doesn't get a KO, but then you're sitting there doing 110 every turn. And look, if your opponent is struggling to get set up and you're sitting there hitting 110 every turn, I'm just telling you, that is actually going to add up pretty gosh darn quickly and is going to annoy your opponent. But at this point, I need to let you know the wording of the ability is this Pokemon can attack even on your first turn going first. It doesn't specify that it has to be the attack on the card. This card can just attack turn 1 going first. Obviously, I'm thinking TM Evolution here. There are decks at the moment that want to go second so that you can get that turn 1 evolution with TM Evolution, and then on your second turn, you manually evolve up into your stage 2 when you're good and ready to go. Meloetta can let you do that same play going first. This is, I'm giving this between 4 and 5 Wassies. I think Meloetta could be a bit busted. The idea of being able to have those donks on things like Badoo are brilliant. Just even the early pressure can sometimes make a difference, but then being able to use turn 1 TM Evolution going first, that, ladies and gentlemen, is potentially a game changer. So there's your 2 new EXs, and now it's over to you guys. Do you think they are legit? Do you think they're going to be awesome? How happy are you about Excadril and Excadrill? Let me know in the comment section. Get us! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.